and said, there are differences wherever you go. But for the most part, it at least gives him kind of a hands up on everybody.
And kind of the key on what he's doing is throwing this swim jig. It's usually a fairly light jig, which with a tough bite, you're not a lot of rattles, not a lot of noise. It's very subtle. It's kind of a finesse tactic that's allowing him to probably get some of the bites. In fact, he was inside the top 20 yesterday, but coming in today, we do know he's got well over 10 pounds now. So, Tom Monsieur making a run, the Mercury Pro running out there on the Red River.
That's kind of been the story so far, though, through day 1 and 2. Once again, limits are not the problem for these guys. Everybody's able to go out there and find their fish. It's just finding that 1 or 2 bites that's really going to get you pushed up ahead of the field.
We saw limit after limit after limit after limit yesterday at the weigh-in, and again, we're going to see that today as well as the whole weekend. But really comes down to exactly what you said, finding that key bite. The Chevy Pro Brian Thrift caught the 7.5-pounder. We know there's several guys out there. Mark Rose, for example, the Walmart Pro, has 2 good fish in his box today. So limits are coming pretty easy for the guys. I mean, they are the best in the world. But, again, just like you said, finding that right group of fish that's going to carry you over not only today, but through the weekend.
What else you got on the Twitter updates here?
I tell you, we got a lot going on. Ray Scheid started off the day in 7th place. The 3M Pro, we do know on the Twitter feed that you at home can also get by using the FLW app. But the 3M Pro does have another limit. He's solid, sitting at about 10 pounds today, setting himself up perfect to go into Saturday in the top 20 cut.
David Fritz, he's trying to make a move right now, trying to make sure he can solidify his spot in that cut range. He had 11.6 yesterday. I believe we've got an update on him as well.
He's money. He's done it a long time. We all know him as a cranking king. Not quite sure he's throwing a crankbait here in this event, but he's had success here before. He's also a past Forrest Wood Cup champion, so he knows what it takes to win these huge tournaments. And we do know he's got a limit with a couple pretty good ones as well.
Successful on this body of water before, David Fritz. Like you said, former Cup champion. Sounds like things are really lining up for him to have a very successful event to me.
Success. It's the key word. All these pros are extremely successful. One successful angle from yesterday, the leader, Everstar Pro Randall Tharp, the Honey Badger. We're going to get more on this Honey Badger name. I promise I'm going to find out exactly where it came from here in a little bit. But the Honey Badger, shockingly enough, no new news on our tournament leader. We know first thing this morning he had about a 3.5-pounder go in the box, and that's the last thing we've heard. There's no news on the Honey Badger, so we look forward to seeing more from him later.
All right, we did just pick up one more.
On the water. Yeah, here we go. On the water, we got Brett Carlson. He's bringing us a live update of what's going on right there on the Red River today. Looks like we're having a little bit of a problem getting that transferred over. So we'll get back with Brett Carlson. We got quite a few guys on the water working with cameras, following some of the pros. In fact, all of our top pros after day 1 are being followed. So that's where we're getting our Twitter updates. We're getting our feeds. But I tell you, we have a huge schedule of stuff going on. We've got seminars going to be going down here, which you can catch on FLW Live. We've got the Cup Insider every hour at the bottom of the hour where we bring you at home the updates from the tournaments.
Can you hear me now, Brian? Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Trap, 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 all day long. Trap, 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 will I sing this song? I'm gonna wrap those curves, I'm gonna make them shine, I'm gonna take off the paint with turpentine.
All right, thank you so much, Brett. I do have an update here. Brian Thrift.
Okay, guys, the last 2 pros we've stopped on are Tom Mansour and Brian Thrift. Now, when we saw Tom yesterday, he was all the way down by the dam, but he was in a backwater. When you think backwater, you think real shallow fishing. Well, this is the opposite of that. Our boat was in 20 feet, and I'm guessing Tom was in similar, maybe 16 or 18 feet. But he was the one guy we really saw fishing deep yesterday. And he said that was key for his bigger bites. You don't get many fish, but you get the bigger fish that way. like Adrian Avina. Like there was an opening. Wasn't fishing the backwater. He was fishing right on the edge. Now we couldn't see current in Thrift Spot, but we definitely saw it in Avina's. But we can only assume it's kind of a similar situation. For Brian, it looked painful. Everybody knows Brian loves to fish fast and cover a lot of water. But when we saw him, he was fishing a shaky head. Looked like a Demiki finesse worm, and he was just slowly crawling that thing along. We saw him get his limit fish, and we saw him upgrade one time. And after that, Brian took off. He's going to try and lock down to pool 4. The last time he tried to lock, there was a barge in the way, so he's going to try again and go down to 4 for some more upgrades. The one commentary I will say that surprises me is how many guys are actually fishing the main river. We saw a lot of guys fish the main river yesterday, and it produced. Today, you kind of assume that many pros hitting the same spots that the catch would be down, but I'm really surprised. And there's going to be some good stringers. We saw a lot of fish caught. Mark Rose is working on a real nice bag, and the main river seems to be the deal for the majority of these guys. I would say you would assume that the backwaters is for the bigger fish, but that's not necessarily the case. So that's pretty much what we have going. That's our look at day 2 on the Red River, guys. Back to you, Daniel.
All right there it was. Brett Carlson on the water. That was pretty lengthy. It was perfect. He broke down a lot of stuff for us. He talked about a lot of anglers. But up here with us, the next angler to our Cup Insider is the off-pro, Terry Bolton. Terry Bolton, thanks for spending some time with us up here on the Cup Insider.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
We just talked about Tom Mansour. You know, we talked about him being kind of a river rat, kind of what he does. Terry, you're not really known as a river rat. I mean, historically, I think of Terry Bolton. I think of our home lake, Kentucky Lake. Right. Big worms, big spinner baits, out deep. But you have had such a successful career in the early months of Kentucky Lake, fishing those bushes, so you can somewhat relate to these guys.
That's right. I mean, I think if you're going to do this for very long, you have to learn how to fish shallow and deep. And that was one thing I had to overcome early in my career. Kentucky Lake's such a dominant structure lake, is to learn how to fish shallow. And, the Red River here, it fishes a lot like, you can go below Kentucky Dam and fish on the Cumberland, Tennessee rivers. It fishes a lot like the Red River does here.
Like we just said, a river is a river.
That's right.
But this is the Red River, and you've had, we were just talking, several tournaments here on the Red River. Give us kind of a breakdown of what you've done in the past here and kind of what these guys are seeing now in this tournament, maybe the changes in the river, what happens to the river over the course of time.
I was here for the last Forrest Wood Cup they had here on the Red River, and back then it was mostly rock and wood, and there wasn't the vegetation, the lily pad fields, and I think since then there's been hydrilla in and out of this river system, and so there wasn't as much vegetation as in those backwaters as there is now. And so back then, those years, I think I was actually fishing the same stretch, one of the same stretches that Dion Hibden ended up initially winning the tournament off of. And, we keyed on more rock on the wing dams and flipping plastics on the wood. So I think that's the one thing that's changed now. I think you see a lot more vegetation, a lot better habitat for those fish. And, now there's also Florida strain bass in here. And so they thrive in that vegetation.
Current plays a key in every tournament. You've got to have the current positions the bait fish, which of course positions the bass to be caught. I was looking at a video that you can catch on FLW Live of this morning, Adrian Avina, what he's fishing. I was taking a look at the video, and you had a rock pile kind of just off to his left, maybe a 20-yard gap of vegetation, and another rock pile on the right, and you really saw the current whipping through there. When you see something like that on the water, how do you approach those wing dams? What lures would you use in this case?
Well, like I said, usually it'll be some sort of crankbait starting out with, maybe even a small topwater bait, and then you may even break it down later in the day. If you're going to sit there, some of these places, as that water ebbs and flows, or if a barge comes through, it'll push and pull water through those areas and cause those fish to feed. And a lot of times those fish are sitting there. They just need something to trigger them. And so if you're going to sit there and throw it all day, you're going to need to kind of mix up a lot of wide variety of lures, to catch those fish, throughout whatever peak period, of feed that they might be in.
Perfect stuff. You know, we had bait choice, current. We just got an update there. Jimmy Houston, unfortunately, only had 2 fish yesterday, but I just got an update, a text message from the water. He has caught his second keeper today, but yesterday he went to pool 3. Today he's staying in pool 5. What type is there? Is it a different river system down there that it is up here?
Yeah, no, I've actually fished on all 3 pools here on this Red River, and we've had ever start events out of, I believe that's Natchitoches down on pool 3, and I've fished out up on this end, and it's very similar. There may be a few more wing dams, rock dikes down on 3 than there are on 4 and 5. I don't believe there's maybe not quite as many backwaters, but they're all very similar. All these pools are very similar. I believe there's a little more rock down there on 3 than there is on 5.
It's good stuff. If you want to find out more what's going on here at the Forrest Wood Cup, the Cup Insider, every hour at the bottom of the hour we'll be back with another update at 12:30. Hope to get a chance to talk with the off-pro Terry Bolton one more time, maybe a few more times over the course of the weekend as he's got tons of history here on the water. Good stuff. Thanks for joining us. Come back in an hour. We'll see you in a little bit.